Then for the live challenge, they're going to ask you a couple of questions about your data. And the best way to answer those is by adding what's called a trend line. So if you right click on any one of the points and go to the bottom or second to the bottom, you can click on what's called add a trend line. We do know it's going to be linear data, so you can just leave that on linear. And then if you just hit close, you see this line now through our points. One of the things we're going to be asked to do is called extrapolation, which is trying to find out a number past the end of our data, so either to the right of our data or to the left of our data. So in this challenge, it asks us to determine the treatment time needed to kill all of the bacteria cells. So to do that, we would have to extrapolate this number down to 0 to see how much time it would take until we had 0 bacteria cells remaining. We could also be asked to extrapolate backwards and figure out how many bacteria cells there were at the beginning before the 1 hour of treatment. So for both of those, you can right click on your trend line. So put the mouse right on top of the little line, right click, go to Format Trend Line, and then you can either forecast either forward or backwards. So in this case, if we went back 1 period, then it should take the line back to 0 for the hours, and we could see that it's estimated that there was probably around 200 bacteria cells at the beginning. If we want to know how long it would take to kill all the bacteria cells, we could forecast the trend line forward, let's say about 2 periods. Then we see it crosses the line for 0. This is when there'd be 0 bacteria cells left over. And we could then zoom in and try to estimate where that would be. Let's take a look at how we can format the graph a little bit better to see these numbers. So you can right click on the numbers and do what's called Format the Axis. This can be really helpful for the minimum and maximum. I wouldn't change much of the other stuff here, but if I wanted to say for my x-axis I only want it to go to 8, that's going to make it a little bit easier for me to read my numbers. So right now it's all set to auto. If I set my maximum to 8 instead of 10, I can see a little bit better down there. And then the other thing we can add are what are called the minor grid lines. So if I right click on this again and go to add minor grid lines, now I've got these lines that I can see a little bit better. If you right click on it again, you can see the minor unit is 0.4. You can use that again to estimate your values. So if I know that each one of these little lines is 0.4, first thing I'm going to do is make this a little bit bigger so I can see it better. So if I know that each one of these little lines is 0.4, then I know that this is 7, this would be 7.4. It looks like we're getting to 0 right around in the middle there, so I'd estimate that to be about 7.2 hours would be when all of the bacteria was dead.